Hi there folks, this is Deckard Spade, and today we're going to be reviewing Dragon Ball Xenoverse, aka Zappy Space Monkeys Travel Through Time and Space. Now I'm going to say right off the bat, I am not an expert when it comes to the games that have come before this. I understand that there have been other games that have led up to the series at this point, including the ones from the SNES up to the Budokai series. However, I have not played all of them, nor am I going to be able to make comparisons between every single one of those games. What I can discuss is the Dragon Ball series as a whole while I was growing up. I also want to talk a little bit about its resurgence lately, as well as its relation to MLP. And then finally, we're going to discuss and pull apart this game. So to start, where do we start? I suppose the right question is, when do we start? Well, obviously we start at the Dragon Ball series, and that followed Goku's growth and training when he was a young child, as well as his experiences in trying to hunt for the Dragon Balls. During the original series, Goku ended up fighting against a lot of the rivals which would later become his friends. Krillin, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan. Even after the Piccolo saga ended and he ended up fighting Piccolo's son, who was also named Piccolo. All of these characters ended up coming together to eventually fight in the Dragon Ball Z series. Dragon Ball Z ended up taking a turn to outer space, traveling and trying to find a new set of Dragon Balls. Then they come back from space and fight Cell, and then they end on the Buu saga. Now, this is where the timeline gets a little bit wonky, because there was the GT series that took place, which has been acknowledged to be canon to some degree, but is its own timeline. Then there was the Dragon Ball Kai reboot, which took place, which is pretty much Dragon Ball Z up to the point of Dragon Ball Super. And at the moment, we're still at Super. At least I think we're at Super. You see, during Dragon Ball Kai, the Battle of the Gods movie came out, introducing Beerus, the God of Destruction. And it was around this time that Dragon Ball Xenoverse was released. And Dragon Ball Xenoverse, to some degree, is canon, because it takes place outside of time and acknowledges that timelines have diverged. And since then, Dragon Ball Super has continued in its own timeline, but it's acknowledged that there are other dimensions. They've even announced that there's a divergence of at least 3 other timelines in the show. Now, according to Beerus and Whis, there are rules set that even the gods themselves have to abide by involving time travel. Using what they call a time ring, they can move forwards in time and then back to the present where they came from. The time rings, however, cannot be used to go back in time. Whis, however, also has the ability to go back in time at least 3 minutes. People still aren't sure what Whis is. Regardless, there are still rules that people follow so that the world doesn't end. Trunks just feels the need to ignore it most of the time. At some point in time, he then ends up making the Time Patrol under the supervision of the Supreme Kai of Time, which, oddly enough, is used to try and fix the timeline so that everything is cohesive and runs in a smooth line. But there's a difference. You see, in the DBZ universe, every time somebody travels back in time, they create a time shard. That is to say, an alternate timeline. Throughout the story of Xenoverse, you learn that if there are too many timelines, the universe cannot support this, and then it just stops existing. You play the part of a summoned time patroller that is meant to go back in time at various key points in Dragon Ball history. You are there to fight and correct the problems that other time travelers are causing. And that's where it ends for the moment, because, well, there isn't any more. Xenoverse 2 has been announced, but it hasn't come out yet. At least not at the time of this video. So, on to the next part. You already know that Dragon Ball has already had its own influence on the internet and media at this point. And looking at MLP, there's no exception to this. I mean, we've already seen how spells are shot by unicorns and alicorns. Between the competing magics of Chrysalis and Celestia during the Season 2 finale, to the full-out fight between Tyrek and Twilight in Season 4. Energy blasts are not a new thing. Dragon Ball Z has had a lot of influence on animation because the quality of its animation is quite good. At least when they weren't shouting at each other for 15 minutes at a time. Now moving on to the main event. The game. Is it fun? How does it play? Well, I'll tell you. The game came out for Xbox, PlayStation, and for PC. The copy I'm going to be showing you guys today is the PC version. Right off of character creation, you can play the Majin Buu race, the Saiyans, humans, Namekians, or the Frieza race. The Majin race has high defense but slow stamina recovery. The Saiyan race has a buff for high attack power at the cost of their health. The human beings have average stats, but they also are the only race to have ki regeneration. Namekians are the ones who have health regeneration, and the Frieza race has a speed boost and a paralyzing ki shot. For the races that have male and female orientations, males have a higher attack power for physical strikes, while females have a higher attack power for ki strikes. There are also some slight variations and bonuses that they don't show based on the form and build you make for your character. Slimmer and smaller characters move faster, while characters who are larger and bulkier will hit harder. However, the rest of character generation is cosmetic, though I would suggest if you're playing a male, pick voice number 8. It's Takahata 101 from Team 4-Star. You can sound like Nappa and say all of the moves wrong. Once character generation is done, you'll log in with your character and generally end up in the first cutscene. Since I don't want to spoil the story for people, I'll be logging in on a pre-established character. Right from the get-go, you end up in the Time Nest, which is basically the main lobby. At login, you have a choice of going into a single-player or multiplayer lobby. The single-player lobby just shows ghosts of different characters that have been created, but the multiplayer lobby actually lets other people be seen in certain instances of the lobby. From here, you'll see on the right the Parallel Quest Chamber, which basically gives you online and offline versions of side quests, and on your left, you'll end up seeing the Multiplayer Chamber, which lets you fight against other players. Now, if you walk into one of the next areas, you can find all of the shops. These range from items, to mixing shops for various materials you find on battle maps, to even buying different skills and armor for your character. Clothing and accessories actually do have stats to them which will affect the way that you fight in combat. As the game progresses, you'll be able to purchase more and more items for different slots in your body. Some of them being classic clothes from the series, while others just variants on the styles that allow you to recolor them as you see fit. I know some of those prices might look a little bit daunting, but you'll end up making that money by endgame. There is another area on the map, but I'm not going to be showing it in this video. Really, its only purpose is to hold a World Tournament area, as well as have the area where you use the Dragon Balls if you find them. The last area is the Time Vault, which holds all of the main story quests. Originally, you'll gather these quests by talking to different NPCs throughout the map, but they all end up here once you complete them. You can play them again, and gain the reward for each one. The game has been updated to have story that continues all the way through the GT saga and the Resurrection of F movie that came out. However, I believe it's already reached its peak in content as they're saving the rest of it for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. Regardless if you select a parallel quest or a main mission, it will start with certain conditions. Sometimes it'll be to find different items on the map, but more often than not, you'll end up having to beat up certain enemies, either before they kill you or the person you're guarding. As for how the game controls, you can use either a keyboard and mouse or a game controller. Using the controls, you'll end up targeting a certain character for you to focus on. From there, you can use basic attacks such as punches or kicks. Holding a button down will do a guard breaker attack. There is a general key blast button that you can hit, but it's usually used more as an interrupt than an actual attack. Taking hits or striking a character with basic moves will usually charge your key bar. The key bar is used for special attacks, which can be either 1 bar for a general special, or 3 bars, which would be used for an ultimate special. You can equip a variance of many different attacks from the series, but you generally learn them by completing different missions or fighting under a certain master. In my case, I have a combination of Yamcha's moves as well as Perfect Cell, because nothing's funnier than smacking things around with Wolfang Fist. Your green bar is your stamina bar. This is used often with defensive moves that you equip using the space bar. This bar also represents the amount of guard that you have while triggering ultimate attacks. Meaning if you trigger an ultimate attack while having a full bar of stamina, you can take several hits while completing the attack rather than it failing right away. There are several abilities which will allow you to alter your stats. These are often transformations such as becoming a Super Saiyan or using the Kaioken. Often there's usually a drain to your stamina or your ki while using these abilities. Sometimes the trade-off is worth it, but sometimes it's not. Characters are also capable of equipping something known as a Z-Soul. Most Z-Souls give a stat boost and a certain effect to them, like health regeneration or auto guard. Like in my case, I have one that doubles the power of any moves that Perfect Cell had taught me. After meeting the mission objectives, you'll end up with a finish. The game will then calculate your experience based on how you've cleared the level. You'll gain a certain amount of experience points based on the different evaluation criteria, and Zenny, which is the money in the game. Completing missions also helps you rank up with the master that you've chosen. The more experience with that master, the more skills they'll teach you. I guess the only other thing to mention is that you're not always going to have a standard mission where you fight one person. This game has a horrible problem when it comes to upping the difficulty and the amount of people you can fight in a match. So as time goes on, you may have to practice and tweak your build in order to be able to get past certain parts of the game. Now I am going to mention healing items do exist in this game. For the single player missions, use them. My suggestion would be to keep one full resurrection item on yourself at all times, as well as one healing item that will be able to heal you and your entire party. You'll be thankful when you end up in a mission that ends up having you fight against 12 people back to back. Seriously, this game does that sometimes. I kind of find it to be more of an artificial inflation to the difficulty curve the game presents. Still, if you can get past that, you'll have fun romping around time in the history of Dragon Ball. The game's main storyline is all single player, though there are some missions which are replicated in the multiplayer lobby. Or you can ignore co-op altogether and just fight each other. Now I do want to say that it is the most fun that I've had in this game playing with my own character against a friend's own character. The amount of customization that you have is staggering. Overall, I'd say that this game is fun to play. The difficulty ends up becoming a little artificially inflated over time, but it doesn't outstay its welcome. The multiplayer is a blast. Corbin, Eureka, and myself have played this game several times, and it's been fun each time we've fought each other. If you're looking for something to kill time, or just to have fun with friends, this is a good game. That said, I think our time is up. So as always, thanks for staying a while to listen.